Let's bring in Michael Beschloss, NBC News presidential historian, joins us this morning to talk about it. Michael, always a pleasure. Good morning.
Same, Carl. Nice to see you.
I wonder if you have a thought on the optics, because not every president, certainly the current president, would not have done this today, in part because they sometimes believe it creates an image where you're favoring corporate America over Main Street. Can you talk about that?
Right. No, perfect comment. And, you know, when you think about this, you'd sort of think that presidents, sitting presidents, or presidents coming into office must have spent a lot of time coming to the New York Stock Exchange or other similar places and talking to people and being interviewed, as Donald Trump was by our friend Jim Cramer, who did an excellent job. But it really is pretty rare. I mean, to think that the first president who ever was sitting president who went to the New York Stock Exchange was only Ronald Reagan early in 1985. And that was largely because of two things. One is usually presidents who are in the middle of a transition don't say very much at all or don't make big appearances because they don't want to be frozen in an image that may come to haunt them later on. Donald Trump knows very well that the images this morning, and probably his interview with Jim, will be shown as an example of what he thought was important for him to show himself doing during this transition. If the economy is bad, he'll be haunted by that. But if the economy is good, as he's talked about this morning, that will be something that this was the first day it was celebrated in a big way.
Right. The other issue we talked about this morning was his employment of business managers, often billionaires. And we've been talking about the balance between bringing in experienced managers and people who understand markets versus descending into what some are calling an oligarch era. What do you think about that?
Right. Well, Dwight Eisenhower brought in a cabinet, believe it or not, that was called 8 millionaires and a plumber. The idea that it was mostly millionaires, which was a particularly big deal in 1953. And the plumber was a leader of a labor union who left pretty quickly. Eisenhower, like other presidents, Republican usually, but not all, felt that there are leadership qualities that you find in business and finance that are very transferable to politics and national leadership. We are about to see a road test of that idea.
It is interesting, though, Michael, that, I mean, we're talking about the world's wealthiest man in particular, who obviously does not have a role in the cabinet, but certainly seems to have an important advisory role here. And then any number of other prominent people in the business community / wealthiest people in the world. I mean, is there any corollary for a previous administration to have that kind of influence conceivable?
I think not to highlight as much as Donald Trump has. You know, it goes all the way back to 2015 when he said he would get the best people. And to him, one definition of that is people who have been successful in business and manufacturing and finance. The test is going to be whether those people are going to dominate his decision making on other issues, or if he's going to bring in other experts. Robert Kennedy Jr., some people love him, some people hate him. His expertise obviously is not business or finance, but you notice that the president-elect made the point of bringing him this morning to say that this is going to be an important voice.
Why wouldn't Biden come to the New York Stock Exchange? Why wouldn't Biden ring the opening bell? You know, that from the beginning, this administration has had a knock that they are not friendly to business. He obviously didn't put a lot of cabinet members with any business background. I think Gina Raimondo is maybe one exception to that. But, you know, this was an administration from the beginning trying to convince the American public that the economy was good and working for them. And they seemed like they just could not do that, looking by the polls and the sentiment indicators.
Right. Joe Biden would not have done this morning, I think, at any time during this administration, and that's not a knock on him. It's two things. Number one, as you all know, the Democratic Party has a very strong wing. Elizabeth Warren is the avatar of it, who feel that it is very important to keep taxes high and to limit and regulate business. And you see that in some of the appointments, like SEC would be a perfectly good example of that. Donald Trump today is trying to be sort of the opposite of that and saying, change is coming to America, and I really mean it. And that's why I've made this appearance, a signal moment in my transition.